Hello everyone and welcome back to the Dungeon Learner's Guide. Today we've got another of our daily Pride Month decks. This is deck number 14 and it's titled A Marriage of Guilds. And if you missed the first few episodes, what we're doing is building a commander deck using two non-partner commanders, working with a budget of $100 or less and celebrating the diversity of the LGBTQ+ community for all of June through the medium of Magic the Gathering. So today, our two partners are actual partners in the lore of the game, and they are Ral, Monsoon Mage, and Tomik, Wielder of Law. So in case you missed it, the Marriage of Guilds title is referring to the fact that these two are canonically married, and also from different guilds. So, Ral is 1 and a red for a 1/3 legendary creature human wizard. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell during your turn, flip a coin. If you lose the flip, Ral deals 1 damage to you, and if you win the flip, you may exile Ral. If you do, return him to the battlefield transformed under his owner's control. And when he transforms, he turns into Ral Leyline Prodigy, which notably is both blue and red, so we are 4 colors today. And Leyline Prodigy comes in with 2 loyalty, plus enters the battlefield with an additional loyalty counter on him for each instant and sorcery spell you've cast this turn, +1 until your next turn. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, -2, Ral deals 2 damage divided as you choose among 1 or 2 targets. Draw a card if you control a blue permanent other than Ral, and -8, exile the top 8 cards of your library. You may cast instant and sorcery spells from among them this turn without paying their mana cost. So there's a lot of text on Ral, but the most important thing we need to focus on is that he cares about instants and sorceries. His partner today, Tomik, is 1 white-black for a 2/4 legendary creature human advisor. He's got affinity for planeswalkers, and notably, since he only has 1 colorless casting cost in his mana cost, that means that the 1 planeswalker he probably has affinity for is his husband Ral, and I just think that is tons of fun and super cool flavor-wise. Otherwise though, Tomik also has flying and vigilance, and whenever an opponent attacks with creatures, if 2 or more of those creatures are attacking you and or planeswalkers you control, that opponent loses 3 life and you draw a card. So there's a lot going on here, but the main focus that we are focusing in on for each of our commanders is Ral cares about instants and sorceries, and Tomik wants to prevent our opponents from attacking us. So with that in mind, let's take a look at some of our themes for today and break down just exactly how this deck works. So starting off, our first theme is going to be Storm. We essentially want to cast as many spells in 1 turn as possible, and a great way to do that is with ritual effects like Dark Ritual, which is 1 black mana for an instant, but it gives us 3 black mana. So this is going to be incredibly useful, mainly because of Ral. We want to cast as many spells in 1 turn, so that when we do flip Ral, we're able to immediately activate his -8 ability and cast the top 8 spells from our library. And obviously to do that, we need a ton of mana, we need to be able to produce a ton of cards and be able to draw cards and cast things, and so getting these ritual-like effects puts us in a position where we are able to cast them. Moving on to our second theme, if we're casting a ton of spells, we may as well also use things like Murmuring Mystic to make a ton of creatures. We're pretty light overall on creatures, choosing instead to focus in on planeswalkers and instants and sorceries. So by having creatures like Murmuring Mystic, we're able to kind of supplement our lack of creatures. And that's because Murmuring Mystic is 3 and a blue for a 1/5 human wizard. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 1/1 blue bird illusion creature token with flying. This provides us with kind of an endless supply of blockers, and can also, if we really need it, an endless supply of attackers. Now, initially we're not going to want to use them attack very much because we do want to hold back blockers so people aren't attacking us, kind of giving us another disincentivization. I don't know if that's a word or not, but disincentivizing people from attacking us with both Tomik and with our tokens. Moving on to our final theme of the deck, This is spells we want to copy. And as weird as that sounds, because we don't really have a ton of copy effects, we have a lot of spells that we can continuously play, like Pirate's Pillage, which is 3 and a red for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast this spell, discard a card, then you can draw 2 cards and create 2 treasure tokens. So when I say that we want to copy the spell, what I'm essentially saying is that we want to be able to continuously cast both this spell and other spells. Pirate's Pillage is one of those spells that makes mana, means that it kind of acts as a ritual. We don't get the full mana back, but it at least makes it less, and it lets us draw cards to try to dig for other things. Notably, it also has a downside. We have to discard a card when we cast it. However, there are ways in this deck for us to copy a spell that we've cast, and if we copy this spell, we do not have to pay that downside to do it again. We would discard 1 card and then draw 2, make 2 treasures, and for each other time we've copied it, we will then only draw 2 cards and make 2 treasures, making this purely a profitable card. And we've got a couple of different effects like this, particularly that make treasures so we can save up our mana for later, but the card draw is also important. So, those are all of our themes for today, and the next thing I want to do is take a look at some of the key cards in this deck. And these are cards that really synergize with what our deck is trying to do, and in some cases are win conditions or value engines, but most often are the MVPs of the deck. So starting off, we have Kaikar Wind's Fury, which is 1 blue, red, white for a 3/3 legendary creature bird wizard. It's got flying. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, make a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying, then you can sacrifice a spirit and add a red mana. This is quite literally the perfect card for our deck, because not only are we making tokens that we can use as blockers and, as bad as it sounds, as fodder, but those tokens also fly, making them perfect blockers, and we can sacrifice them for mana, essentially getting mana back on the spells that we are casting. So it helps us to ramp, it helps us to make blockers, it helps us to forward our storm plan. Kaikar really does everything we want it to be doing, so it really does outshine everything else that we want to be doing. Moving on to our second key card, this one is Battle Hymn. And Battle Hymn is 1 and a red for an instant, add 1 red mana to your mana pool for each creature you control. As we've already talked about, we have plenty of ways to make creature tokens, and we've talked about Murmuring Mystic and Kaikar, but we have so many more in the deck that Battle Hymn can very easily be pay 2 mana to make 15 plus red mana. And at that point, it is very difficult for us to lose because we have so much card draw, we have Ral, we have plenty of ways to guarantee that we can continuously draw cards and make more mana and just keep casting spells, and Battle Hymn is really the card that is going to be the most efficient at getting us started. Moving on to our final key card, this one is Geralf the Fleshwright. And Geralf is 2 and a blue for a 2/3 legendary creature human warlock. Whenever you cast a spell during your turn, other than the first spell that turn, create a 2/2 blue and black zombie rogue creature token. Then, whenever a zombie enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it for each other zombie that entered the battlefield under your control this turn. This is probably the best token creator in the entire deck, because most token creators that trigger off of instants and sorceries are going to trigger and make a 1/1, maybe a 2/2 if we're lucky. Geralf is going to be making 2/2s that are then also going to be getting +1/+1 counters. So if we cast 5 spells, we will make 4 zombies, and then the first one will be a 2/2, then a 3/3, 4/4, and a 5/5. So we can very quickly not just overwhelm our opponents with numbers, but also put ourselves in a position where our creatures aren't just chump attacking into our opponent's blockers, they're actually pushing through damage. That, though, is the end of all of our key cards, and the next thing I want to do for this deck tech is take a look at some cool interactions. And these are cards that really synergize together, but in a lot of cases are also just fun cards that I want to highlight. So the first pair of cards I want to talk about is Judith, Carnage Connoisseur, and Infernal Plunge. Judith is 3 black, red for a 3/4 legendary creature human shaman. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, choose one. You can either give that spell Death Touch and Lifelink, or you can create a 2/2 red imp creature token with, when this creature dies, it deals 2 damage to each opponent. And we are going to partner Judith up with Infernal Plunge, which is 1 red mana for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast Infernal Plunge, sacrifice a creature, then you can add red, red, red to your mana pool. This is incredibly efficient when it comes to generating mana, because what we can do is with Judith, we can make an imp casting some other spell, and then we can sacrifice that imp to Infernal Plunge, making 3 red mana from only 1, essentially going up by 2 red mana, making another imp with Judith, so it just replaces the creature we just sacrificed, and doing 2 damage to each opponent. So it really just kind of ticks all the boxes for what we want to be doing, and I think is a fun play in the Rakdos colors when we're looking at kind of Spellslinger and Sacrifice, which is something that usually when we're talking Storm winds up with blue and red, so it's kind of cool to see a unique synergy in black and red. Moving on to our second cool interaction of today's deck. In this case, we have 1000 Year Storm and Deadly Dispute. So 1000 Year Storm, 4 blue-red for an enchantment. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, copy it for each other instant and sorcery spell you've cast before at this turn. You may choose new targets for the copies, and we're going to partner that up with Deadly Dispute, which is 1 and a black for an instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice an artifact or creature, then you draw 2 cards and create a treasure token. So similar to what we talked about earlier with Pirate's Pillage, being able to copy Deadly Dispute means we only have to sacrifice a single artifact or creature, and because we have so many token generators in the deck, it is very easy to have the creatures to sacrifice. But with 1000 Year Storm, we can copy Deadly Dispute 3, 4, 5 plus times, draw a bunch of cards, make a bunch of treasure, and then just kind of keep going. So what we're able to really do is if we hit 1000 Year Storm and we can keep it on the battlefield long enough to cast a couple of spells, there's a very good chance we win on the spot, because we are able to keep casting cards like Deadly Dispute to keep drawing more cards, and eventually we actually wind up making more mana than we are spending, not necessarily putting us into an infinite loop, but putting us into an incredibly important value loop that probably ends with us drawing most of, if not all of our entire deck, and doing a ton of damage to our opponents. That, though, is the end of our cool interactions section. So the final piece of our deck tech is to take a look at the price of the deck, and today we came in at $75.45, with the most expensive card being Pyretic Ritual at $6.57. And Pyretic Ritual is honestly just another ritual. It's 1 and a red for an instant that you can add 3 mana to your mana pool. I think the fact that it's an instant and has almost never been reprinted, it's only been reprinted in Mystery Booster and Secret Lairs, kind of leans into the price aspect of it. But it's not necessary to the deck, although I do think it is a very good card. You'll notice though, the most expensive card is only about $6.50 and we're still at $75, which means that quite a few of our cards land somewhere between $3 to $5. There's a lot of very powerful effects, and because we're 4 colors, there's so many things we want to be doing and want to be casting. But because Storm tends to be a relatively popular archetype, it does also mean that a lot of our key pieces are a little bit more expensive. So if you do put the deck together, it is difficult to find cards to trim in order to cut down on the budget. That, though, brings us to the end of our deck tech for today. So thank you all so much for watching and joining me on this adventure through our daily Pride Month deck, and in celebrating a marriage of guilds between 2 very popular creatures, humans. It feels weird to call them creatures, but playable creatures in the game of Magic that are represented by humans in the game of Magic. You know what I'm saying. So being able to celebrate the LGBTQ+ community through actual canonical LGBTQ+ characters in Magic is awesome. I love that we're able to do that. So thank you all so much for watching. If you liked the video, I would love it if you would, quite literally, like the video, and also subscribe to the channel. It's very much appreciated, helps out a lot. If you want to go above and beyond, you can find us over on Patreon or right here on YouTube as a channel member. So a shout out to all of our current patrons and channel members. Thank you to everybody for watching. I hope you all have had a wonderful Pride Month so far, and we will continue to have a wonderful Pride Month. And I will see you all on the other side of the Dungeon Learner's Guide.